My space golf game, Celestial Golf, is essentially one long tutorial. I've always been a big fan of games that introducing a new mechanic every level, so the player is always learning something new. Games like Portal that are essentially just teaching you a new thing every time. The game doesn't teach you how to play and then just let you play 100 levels of the same thing. It's a shorter game. It's always introducing a new mechanic, and that means that every level needs to have some kind of tutorial to teach the player a new mechanic. For example, on the early holes, we're showing you how to get up into orbit, and then we're showing you how to transfer your orbit between planets. So the gold standard for me of a good video game tutorial is one that says nothing at all and just lets the player experiment with the mechanics until they figure out what they have to do. That doesn't really work in a game this complicated though, so I did find myself building out a fairly detailed descriptive tutorial. It ended up being way too long, too wordy, with too many steps, and players were just ignoring it. As far as I could tell, they were not even reading all the text and just trying to experiment and then becoming stuck. So I've recently set out to completely overhaul the tutorial of the game. First, I've got to show you what the game used to be like. So this is the public playtest build that I put out in December that some of you have played. And to anyone who did play it, thank you so much. Your feedback has been invaluable in figuring out where to take this. So the way that the game used to work was that there was this tutorial system that would give you a bunch of steps that you had to do to get through the level. There's this guy who is essentially the speaker of the tutorial, so that you have a bit of a character. There is a bit of what you might call flavor text, a bit of just chatty dialogue, and then we get into the steps. So this is just a recap of a previous tutorial, but I'll just get through that part where we get up into orbit, and then we move on to the next one. And each time you complete one of these missions, it gets folded up, but you can always open it up just in case you need to read something you've already done. You can press F1 to open and close the tutorials, and they're all optional. All of these quests or goals are optional because you can just get the ball in the hole if you want to, but the intended flow is that you go through all these steps. So this is telling me, for example, pause the game, aim prograde, and increase the shot power until you see a moon escape event. So we'll just get into that state now. There we go. And then hit the ball. Now, you can kind of see the first problem is that this is going to keep stacking up longer and longer and longer. And once we pass this step, you'll see I'll move my face out of the way so you can see this has actually taken up the entire right-hand third of the screen. And it's just a lot of text. It's a lot of steps, but I need to explain these concepts like what is the apoapsis, what is the periapsis, how do you change these things? First of all, it's taking up a lot of space in the user interface. The intention is that you collapse it when you've read it, you collapse it and now you can actually play the game. But even then, we're still taking up half of the vertical height of the screen just with the crossed out quests. And we need the crossed out quests just in case you need a refresher so you can go back and read them. I can't just have them disappear. But what I found is that a lot of players didn't close it for whatever reason. They just weren't thinking about that. They were just trying to play the game. And so they left this open while playing it, and then they got frustrated that they couldn't click underneath, they couldn't start a drag underneath this part of the text, and they also weren't really reading all of the text anyway. So I had a big rethink of how this whole system's going to work. And what I realized is that this system is trying to do a lot of things all at the same time. It's trying to give you a bit of flavor, a bit of character through this character who's speaking to you. It's trying to teach you the controls. It's trying to teach you concepts. And it's trying to give you a list of tasks to complete. So those are the four things. And I just wrote those down and said, what if there was a different system for each one of those things? So here is the new version of the same level, just for a comparison. So we're, let's move over here for now. So we've now got those 4 things that I just listed have been separated into 4 separate pieces of user interface. So in the new version, we have this dialogue box here. These dialogues are how we convey the flavor, the character, a little bit of sort of implying what the goals are going to be. So it says, we're going to get back into orbit around the moon, but none of this is really that important. You can skip through it and it never shows up again. And then we see this full screen tutorial pop-up. So the tutorial pop-ups are modal dialogues, and that's really important. You can't click off this and play the game until you dismiss the tutorial. So that might be annoying to some people. If you really don't want to read it, you don't have to, but you are forced to dismiss it. So it's not going to be hovering around the screen, taking up space while you're trying to play the game. So these tutorials have much more concise text than before. They use color to kind of highlight key words. They have videos to give you an example of how you're supposed to do it. So you can kind of watch the video, read it and understand it, and now it's your turn to execute. So once you say got it, now we're playing the game, and you can bring that tutorial back by pressing F1. And then we have our familiar quest system over here, but the quests do not have any text associated with them. And now we're coming up to that really complicated part where we're going to teach you about orbital maneuvers. So this is the part that you'll remember before was filling up that entire side of the screen. Now it's been translated into a 4-part tutorial. And you can see that each page is quite a small amount of text, and they all have their own videos. So once we've introduced that, now the quest, which before was taking up the entire screen with all of that explanation, plus telling you like, hey, you've got to get it within this height and so on, is now reduced to just this blue box. So this is some new UI as well, which solves the problem of the player not being able to know. Sometimes the quests have these complicated conditions where you had to be within a certain height and going in a certain direction and so on. So now we can just show you. Firstly, I've replaced these numerical things that the old tutorial used to say it has to be above this number and below this number. Now we've got these dashed circles to give you visually, like you know exactly where you need to be. Here we're targeting to get the periapsis in there. So if I hit the ball now, you can see it ticks off that quest. So that means that we can just get rid of the numeric values altogether. So in a future version, I'm just going to be removing all of this complexity here. We don't need numbers anymore because it's all purely visual. And the other thing is that it tells you exactly what conditions you haven't met yet. So here I can be like, oh yeah, I've got the periapsis, but I need to also move the apoapsis within the dashed circles. And the last thing you'll notice is that the quests are disappearing, because now we can remove the quests that you have completed because the quests themselves do not contain the tutorial information. If you want to recall a tutorial from a previous mission or from earlier in this mission, you can go to the tutorials list and access anything you need from there. This mission here, you can see that it's teaching you how to zoom in and out, and now it just shows that as a little button prompt here. It says, hey, you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. Whereas previously that was also part of the huge tutorial text would say, you can use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out, and it was written out as a full sentence. And what I recognized from rewriting all of the text in the game basically, is that I was kind of constrained to this writing style where everything had to be a full sentence. Because everything was in those blue boxes, it kind of had to all have the same tone. It had to have this chatty, kind of friendly tone because it was being spoken by a character. It had to be written in full sentences because it would be weird if one of the sentences was just a simple button prompt. by splitting it into these 4 separate components. You've got the button prompts that flash up on the screen, you've got the dialogue box at the bottom, you've got the full screen tutorial, and you've got the quest log. By having those 4 separate components, each of them can have their own style and their own verbosity. So the dialogue text can be chatty and fun, the button prompts can be extremely simple, not a sentence, just a picture of a button and what it does. The quests can be written out as simply conditions, and the tutorials are really direct. They don't have any kind of humor or quirky style or maybe you could do this would be useful. They just say the concept. It just means that all the text in the game is much shorter because it's all written for a specific style, for a specific purpose. So that's the lesson that I really took away from this, because I really was quite proud of the fact that I had managed to get the dialogue, the quests, the tutorials, all sort of compressed into one system that does all these things. But it turns out that it was doing too many things, and sometimes, especially with tutorials, it's okay to have multiple different systems, more complexity in the game. This is certainly a much more complex system to implement. It actually simplifies the user experience because the user is being told exactly what they need, when they need it, and then it gets out of the way. So that is how I believe I fixed the tutorials for Celestial Golf. I haven't done a playtest on this. If you would like to be a playtester, you can go to Steam right now and click the Get the Playtest button, and you can use this new version. Let me know what you think about this new system, either in the comments down below or from the main menu. You can always take the survey. I would love to hear from you. I've had some great responses. I'm really looking forward to pushing this game over the finish line. So if you want to follow along the last, hopefully, few months of development, do subscribe on this YouTube channel, wishlist the game on Steam, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.